I think it's a great building. I think it's capable of a lot more, and we're hard at work on all those things. I alluded to it this spring. We're hard at work on finalizing a plan for a multi-year renovation that is continuing. We've already put about 10 plus million into it over the last 18 months that most people wouldn't notice. It's more infrastructure, it's more mechanical, it's more electrical, life safety systems, etc. That's kind of the foundation that we need before we do some of the more fan-facing upgrades that we're planning on starting next summer. We want to get a complete plan finalized, and we'll announce that hopefully here in very short order. It's been fun in the process. When you're talking to architects, you're talking to people about what this building needs to become moving forward. It's an incredible university asset, and there's been great history in that building, not only from the basketball and the other sports that compete there, but those of you in the Valley in the 70s and 80s, I mean, the concerts that came to this building, and U2 and Jethro Tull and AC/DC and on. The Rat Pack played in that arena at one point, and so literally our women's basketball team room before they go on the court used to be the green room. And so I'm like, Molly, you got to tell parents. Like, the kids may not care, but the parents might be excited that Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, these guys were in DFA. And so my point there is that there's great history, there's great bones in the building. And we've got Mullen Arena, that's the shiny new toy. We've got Desert Financial Arena that's got incredible history and legacy and really strong bones in it. We want to bring those to life. We want to tell those stories throughout the concourse. Obviously, it's where our Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame is represented. I think on a game day, there's a lot more that building is capable of. And so we're designing around a better game day for any sport. How is it a better tool for graduation? Could it also be a tool for attracting non-ASU events to campus? That's going to be important in this new environment moving forward. So Desert Financial is high on our list. It's something that we're working on very much daily right now, and hope to have some news there more specifically soon.
When can renovation begin once everything is signed off and sealed?
Hoping for next summer, right after graduation wraps up with a first phase.
Where do the teams go? How long will it take to complete at least the vision that you have? You're sharing that.
In a multi-year renovation, we're going to try to maximize every day during the summer window. We've got the benefit, if we're bleeding into the fall, Mullen Arena enters the conversation. We played volleyball there, we played some women's basketball there. We're trying to avoid that, where we can use May and the summer months to get as much done over a series of years to get it updated. And so those are the details that we're still working through, the full scope, the full construction plan, and what adjustments we need to make as a result.
Last question is just regarding the history is cool, but do some people recommend you just start over with that building and that area?
Yeah, we haven't gone down that road. We want college basketball on campus in Tempe. We think that's a great experience for the students that are at ASU. We think that it's got the right infrastructure around it. The Novus Innovation Corridor, if you haven't been on the Tempe campus, has been an incredible ad. We've got Fox Restaurant Concepts that just opened up 3 restaurants earlier this spring. It's become the place to be pre and post game. A lot of our fans have really warmed up to that, and that's going to be a great tool for us moving in. That whole Novus Innovation Corridor is an incredibly important revenue stream for athletics moving forward. And so the faster that we build that out, the better that is as a funding tool for athletics, moving into this next iteration. So no conversation about not playing on campus. That's been important to Dr. Crow. It's been important for our coaches to have, college basketball on our campus.
Hey Graham, good to see you. Thanks for doing this today. Just to start, you got some impressive hardware up there with you, but the check in front from Sam and the donation he made, just how important is it to have guys like Sam in an athletic department willing to give back with his NIL dollars and things like that?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I love the kids that are in our department. We've got, Sam Levitt is really taking on massive leadership in ASU, not just for football, but for all of ASU. And I think when you see a check like this where he's donating his NIL money back to the Pat Tillman Foundation, it tells me that they understand the legacy of our institution. They understand what it's like to be a Sun Devil. They understand the spirit of giving back, and that's what NIL has always been intended to accomplish, is let young people earn by promoting something that they care about. What's cool about Sam is he's also is wise beyond his years in terms of the spirit of giving it back and sharing the resources and leaving an environment better than you found it. And so I'm glad we brought that, because it's a good reminder of the kind of kids and the kind of character that are in our programs, and also the reality of what we can accomplish. I think college sports has historically been very selfish. It's helped us because we're inefficient at running the industry ourselves. We need our hand out for people to come give us resources. We want to get that back. We want to build a better business, but we want to be very community oriented, where we're affecting causes that are important to the Valley. And And it's about giving that back and using our platform as a tool for social good and awareness and the spirit of giving back to the community that's supporting us in return. So Sam's the best, Heisman candidate going into the season, coming off this incredible run. He's connected to his head coach, he's connected to his coaching staff and his teammates, and we've got a good one leading this football program.
And just a quick follow-up, you mentioned coaching staff, just with all the changes and everything right now, how important are all the coaches you have in place? Whether it's Kenny, you got the volleyball trophy, people like JJ, Molly Miller, Bobby, how important are the coaches in helping the players and you navigate all these changes?
It's really important for the feedback. They're daily interacting with not only the current athletes, but also the recruits and getting the feedback on the environment that we're operating in right now. They bring back really insightful questions and feedback, and it helps us make better decisions, again, on behalf of our sports. We're making decisions for the sake of making decisions. We're not servicing our sports, our coaches, and our athletes in the way that we need to. And so we've really encouraged the spirit of collaboration and curiosity and being provocative at the things that we need to understand. We want to find answers for our coaches and our programs. We need their feedback in order to really do that. But as I mentioned, the cohort and the chemistry across all of our coaching staffs has been really, really enjoyable to see develop and evolve. 9 alumni head coaches, but also coaches that are choosing to be here. JJ Van Neal in volleyball has become one of the top coaches in America in 2 years as a head coach. We win the Big 12 championship, and I'm getting phone calls from counterparts asking for permission to talk to him. Like, absolutely not. We're keeping this guy. And so, we want to fight and compete the coaching talent, but they also want to be here. I think that's what's really telling with somebody like Molly Miller, who had her pick of the litter. She could have gone to any open job in America after the amazing season that she had at GCU, and her personality and her infectiousness and her creativity on the sport, she wanted to be here. She saw what's happening. She's right down the street, seeing it every single day, and was really excited to plug into ASU and be able to recruit young people to this institution. And she's like, I don't need to go anywhere else to do what I want to do. It can happen in my backyard. And so it feels good that we've got coaches that have lived this experience and want to transfer that knowledge and lead by example. But we've also got coaches that are seeing what's happening and they want to be here. We had an assistant coach yesterday in the sport, not at liberty to share it yet, but he was entertaining a head coaching job elsewhere and wants to stay here. He'd rather be a top assistant at ASU than leave for a head coaching job elsewhere because he loves the role, he loves the environment, he loves the coaches that he works with, and wants to get on the ball.
Yeah, Graham, this is Chris Schaller from Cronkite News. You had mentioned earlier how ahead of the curve ASU is when it comes to international recruitment, whether that's for tennis, swimming, track and field, volleyball, etc. Where do you see the future trajectory of that going, especially with the travel ban? Does that threaten any challenges for you guys as right now?
It just sharpens our focus because we're a very international university. We got tens of thousands of students across ASU, so it's not unique to athletics. So we're lucky to have infrastructure at ASU that we can lean on and rely in terms of access to information, help with visas when we're navigating that. But we're going to continue to we're going to recruit talent all over the world. I do think there's enormous value at our institution where if we have a volleyball player from Latvia, well, we also have a women's tennis player from Latvia. We also have students from Latvia. And there's these connection points that you can create outside of the one athlete or the one sport that's just good for the ASU community. And it's also nice to be at this institution where we can recruit globally. And we've had a number of our sports with very high-performing, successful student athletes. Volleyball, to use them again, just signed an outside hitter from the French national team. She'll be here this fall as a key member of our volleyball program. And so the more success we have, the more visible that we are. We're talking to the Big 12 about competing in international waters in a lot of our sports. I think that could happen as soon as spring of 26, and maybe even fall of 26. So very much mindful of opportunities to extend the ASU brand beyond the Valley, or even beyond the country for that matter. And so that's good for athletics. It's also very good for ASU as an institution. The flip side of that is we've been very focused on recruiting Arizona kids in all of our sports. And I think that's critically important for us as we continue to build a fan base, that we've got to be relevant in our backyard. We've got to have rosters that people in the community look at and say, I know that high school, or we're from that hometown, or we've got a relationship with that family, and we want to show up and cheer them on and be a part of a great game day in all of our sports. And so I think we're fortunate to be able to be on both ends of that, where we're going to dominate Arizona, we're going to have our coaches visible in all these sports. It's a great way for us to build fan bases and support. We're also going to be very, very aggressive in finding the best talent available in the world.
Hey, Graham, Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AAZ. As you look back this first year in this role as AD, how would you assess how you did, and at your previous stops or your previous roles, who were some of those mentors that you had, or those moments that you had that helped equip you for this role?
Yeah, I'm more excited to talk about the collective unit of our department, and I'm just really proud of the foundation that we've started to build. I don't think I've done enough this year in terms of what I would have hoped to in terms of our team. You know, our team throughout the department, we had a lot of, I can count the number of hours on privileged and confidential legal calls related to the settlement. And when you're in your office for 3 hours on a Zoom with other ADs in the conference, it's hard to be building relationships in other departments. And so I think I failed at building the kind of culture that I was hoping in our department. We're going to make great strides on that this summer, moving into next year. Now that we're through the settlement, we can talk a lot more openly about the dynamic and the issues that we're facing. Really try to prioritize a lot of time with our coaches and understanding all 26 of our sports, what makes our head coaches tick as leaders, what are the things that they're up against and facing in each of their respective sports, how do we continue to evolve them, not only as leaders of the sport, but also as motivated individuals. But I'm really proud of the competitive success that we're starting to have. I think that's a trend line that I would expect to continue as we continue to make the investment into all 26 programs. I'm really excited that our fan base is plugging back in, and it's just fun. You know, it's odd to get recognized around town. That obviously comes with the job, but it's fun to be on a conversation on a Saturday morning at a restaurant with a fan. It's just again, it feels good to feel good. Like we're fired up about the excitement. Can't wait to come and watch what baseball and softball did this spring, what Molly's bringing on the energy on basketball, what Bobby's done in the transfer portal this year, rebuilding an entire roster. Obviously, football speaks for itself, but I'm just energized by the energy that our fans are giving to us in return. And we've got a long way to go. We have a lot more on our wish list. We have a lot of work in front of us, but we're building the kind of team around us where people are, it's hard work. That's okay. We want people that are willing to sign up for the hard work and willing to get their hands dirty, because I think it's very purposeful that we're getting a chance to do these kind of jobs.
Graham, Lena Washington, 12 News Phoenix. You talked about kind of what Jordan mentioned, but is there a moment or someone who helped prepare you for this, made you prepared for this moment?
Thank you for the reminder, Jordy. Sorry, I forgot the part 2 on that. You know, it's been fun just gaining perspective this year, you know, and I've always been more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, and I've worked for some very strong leaders in my career. Pat Murphy, who's now the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, was my coach at ASU. I spent 8 years with him, learned an incredible amount of what to do in situations, but at the same time, what not to do in situations. He's been very vocal about that in his own journey. But he just got it, and he got how to connect people. He got the concept of being a part of something bigger than yourself, being passionate about the things that you represent. I don't think I've ever had a job. I've been fortunate to be associated with ASU and the Diamondbacks, and these are two organizations that I care about deeply and intrinsically, because I love my association with them and I love what they've provided to me back in return. And I think that stems from being around Murph and the way that I was able to, and just he's a giver, he's a connector, he's a giver. He doesn't want it to be about him, even though he's a very big personality, as many of you know and remember. But he looks at the world differently, and I think that contrarian perspective on let's not follow the leader, let's chart our own course, let's find our unique way to be successful and dynamic and connect in the ways that he's had great success doing. You know, there's Derek Hall. I mean, I spent 13 years with him, you know, and it goes back to even, I remember being a senior at ASU and getting a chance to meet him when he was at the Dodgers for the first time. And you know, he's a proud Cronkite alum, Cronkite Hall of Famer, if I'm not mistaken, and tried to get me to LA a few times. I never saw myself living in Los Angeles, so when he came to the Valley, I knew that was going to be potentially a good segue for me. And just his attention to detail, his philosophy on the fan comes first, and we're making decisions in the benefit of the fan experience and the community. You know, I think about those two daily and talk to them very often and pick their brains to this day. And just, you know, glad to have been a part of, you know, the time I spent with them was important for the work I did, but also very, you know, gratifying and developing in what I'm here to do today.
There was a lot of talk about building ASU or the Sparky or Pitchfork logo into a national brand. You mentioned international as well. How have you seen that shift in the success in the Big 12 over the last year? What's been the response that you've received in terms of the recognizability of this university?
Yeah, you know, we all grew up around the Pac-10, Pac-12. That's a deep part of my background, and that was a great fit for us. It doesn't exist in the same way that it did. We're in the Big 12 now, and it's been the unbelievable best fit for us as we navigate everything that's changing in college sports. And I say this often, the number one benefit of the Big 12, in my opinion, is that we're in this national footprint. 4 schools in Texas, UCF in Florida, schools throughout the Midwest and East Coast. It just gives us visibility in a way that we didn't have before. And when you pair that with the television distribution that we now have, Fox and ESPN pushing our most important broadcast in the world, it's not behind a paywall, it's not behind a regional sports network. This is powerhouse networks bringing the Sun Devils into the living room of fans all over. You know, our television ratings are up 353% year over year. That includes the spike in the Peach Bowl, but you take that out, and I think we were still up maybe nearly 100% year over year in terms of millions of more people watching ASU through sport. And the light that shines on not only our athletic department, but also our university, and most importantly, the Valley and our community. I mean, there's no replacement for that kind of attention and awareness. And what happens when more people see what's happening here? Here means all of it. ASU, Phoenix, Sunbelt Athletics, etc. It just allows us to get on the radar. People that want to come here and compete, people who want to coach here, people who want to work here, people who want to move here. Again, we're all blessed to live here. We all enjoy that every single day. But now that everybody else is starting to find out what this place is growing up to accomplish and become, you know, we say this often, there's no better way to emotionally connect people than through sport. And we're lucky to use Sunbelt Athletics as this forum for connection in all the ways that we need to.
Hey Graham, Payne Moses with Cronkite News. Recently you brought up what the job that Bobby Hurley has done recruiting, you know, practically a whole new roster for this coming season. In the second year in the Big 12, you know, you kind of talked about, you know, how that's really brought an awareness and a good, you know, recruiting opportunity for a lot of teams. But you look at last night in the NBA draft, you had 3 Big 12 going to lottery picks, and it just kind of talks to the talent that's available. So I guess once again, it takes specifically with ASU men's basketball to kind of, you know, attract that talent moving forward.
Yeah, we've got to compete and we've got to get creative. And you know, the nature of men's basketball is probably our most unique sport at this exact time. That's not unique to ASU. That's something that everybody's navigating. We've got one returning player from last year. And so I give Bobby and his coaches a lot of credit that they've taken this challenge on, and they understand that, you know, we didn't retain some of the targets that we maybe anticipated. We didn't get some of the incoming recruits that we felt like we were very deep on. But they've not backed off from the challenge. They've really been aggressive at finding the kind of complementary pieces that can create team basketball. We may be more well-balanced as a roster going into the season. We'll be less maybe star-reliant. That didn't work out as intended last year with injuries and just the learning curve of some younger players. The Big 12 is the best basketball conference in America, in my opinion. And so now we have the benefit of perspective. Now we've seen one turn through that conference and understand the physicality, the veteran experience, the nature of style in this conference is very different than the Pac-12. And so that's allowed the coaching staff to recruit to the style of basketball that we're going to be facing when it matters the most. We had an incredible non-conference last year. You know, we played against some very talented teams and went into the conference season, you know, almost ranked, 9-10 wins, feeling good about the progression for the spring. And we're obviously humbled with what transpired during the spring. But I believe in Bobby Hurley, and I know his back's against the wall. I'm excited about how he's responded. I'm excited about the work that his coaches have put in. We've tried to find all the ways that we can resource our men's basketball program to compete in a very competitive environment. You know, look at the new environment around us. The Big East is going to continue to emerge in basketball. These schools don't have football the same way that the rest of the Power Four does, and so the competition in men's basketball is changing moving forward. But I like our commitment to building a team of 15 that can affect team outcomes and not really cater to any one individual. Find those complementary pieces that our coaches can really obsess over coaching in the gym and preparing them for an environment that we just know a lot more about going into the season.
Just a quick follow-up on that. It's one thing to bring in one team for 1 year, but then it's another thing to retain that team. So I guess, is there anything that you're communicating with Bobby and the whole men's basketball coaching staff to help, you know, retain that talent year over year?
Yeah, I think retention for all of our coaches is a daily task, and it's the reality of what we're in right now. I hope at some point that evolves and changes. I think it's unfair what we're putting on coaches in A-sport right now. You've got to wake up and determine, am I coaching the team I have today? Am Am I focused on that retention conversation? Am I recruiting the team that I'm going to need in the next couple of years? And we're still asking them to connect and fundraise and build a brand of their programs. That's why I want to continue to be able to find people and resources in our department that allow our coaches to focus on leading and coaching and X's and O's. And we're going to take on the heavier lift on fundraising and building resources and allowing them to be freed up to do what they do best. We need Bobby Hurley to be the best basketball coach he can be. We don't need him to be a media magnate and a ticket seller and a fundraiser. Like, we should be taking that responsibility on. We should be freeing him up to lead his team and coach his players at the highest possible level. The same goes for the 19 other head coaches that we have as well. So retention's daily. That's the reality that we're in college sports right now is with the portal. They can jump ship every single year. So the strength of the relationship really matters. The connection, the deep understanding of you're recruiting to your style, you're recruiting to what your program needs to be. But you've also got to be very nuanced and tailored to, you've got different personalities, different backgrounds, different needs across your rosters, and it really tunes in a head coach to be connected and understand that you've got convictions, but your style needs to evolve. Your style needs to be very pliable to the type of kids in your program today.
Hi, good morning. Lindsay D, Cronkite News. You've mentioned a lot that you value all 26 teams here at ASU, but what choices have you had to make to kind of ensure that the divide between those high revenue teams like football and basketball the gap is not growing anymore, especially with competitive teams like women's volleyball, and that all athletes are kind of feeling supported?
Yeah, we took a big step forward last summer with all of our program budgets. We cut a lot of our staff last summer. We reduced our leadership team. We saved dollars wherever we could so we could be feeding operational budgets, knowing that the environment was going to change a lot this summer. So we took a big step last summer in terms of resourcing all of our sports. We tried to be a little bit more modest with the incremental budget increases that are going into every sport, but again, committing to scholarships across all 26, and finding the different ways that they all service a goal. Volleyball, for example, set a school record for average attendance. Lacrosse led the Big 12 in attendance. Soccer is a gold mine waiting to happen in the Valley with the fan base around us. And we're looking at all the different commercial aspects that our sports can have as far as ticket sales, building strength over the course of the year for us to build better corporate partnerships. I think what's so unique about college sports is that we are year-round. We have 250 live events from August to June. We're going to start in the fall with soccer, volleyball, football. We're going to wrap up in the spring with baseball, softball, track and field. If you're a partner or a corporation that connects to ASU, we've just given you your entire marketing calendar. We've given you your entire, back to school, holiday ramp up, dads and grads in the spring. We are continuity in a way that other properties in the Valley may not be. And so that just strengthens our value proposition, but it also strengthens our ability to build connections and resources to pour back in to the entire department. And so it's easy to fall into the trap of isolating each 26 sport as a standalone P&L or a unit. The reality is they all service the same goal of building the brand of Sunbelt Athletics. And so we're very mindful of that. We're very mindful that the high-end sports like football and basketball are going to continue to be the benefactor of a lot of the rule changes, but that's why we're going to look for every unique opportunity at ASU to make sure that volleyball is progressing and that softball is back in a national conversation and that women's basketball continues to ascend in the same way that we're seeing elsewhere in the country.
What would you say to those athletes that are worried about being forgotten in this new landscape of college sports?
I'm excited about our ability as a storyteller. I think if you're in content creation, if you're in storytelling for a living, there's not a better place to come than ASU. And we've got success stories across our department. 600 athletes from all over the world. It's less about what they do on the field of competition. It's more about why did they choose ASU? What have they overcome to get here? What's the adversity that they've had to persevere through? What's the high-performing stories of the individuals involved? Molly's an easy example because she's been in the news so much lately, but high school valedictorian, national champion player, All-American, Coach of the Year. There's just, these people are wired differently. These are high-performing individuals throughout our athletes and our coaches, and I feel like if you're a storyteller, come raise your hand. Come plug into the soup with us, and let's illuminate these incredible storylines all throughout our department. That's how we're going to make sure that our athletes aren't forgotten. That's how we're going to find, it's less about you were 3 for 4 or you threw 4 touchdowns. It's more about why'd you choose ASU? And what do you want to use this platform to go create awareness on your background, where you came from, why you're here, what you're going to do next, and let that be the connection point that gets other people excited about following their footsteps to ASU. Yeah.
Doug Franz Unplugged, how are you? Question one, it's all men's basketball related. You guys are kind of a program that almost seems to live in the bubble. How many teams should go to the NCAA tournament?
I like the idea of expansion. We're starting to talk about that a lot more at a Big 12 level. I think the reality is, when you're in a sport that's got hundreds of teams that compete at a high level, we're in the business of creating opportunities. We're not trying to diminish the purpose of a national champion. There's still a format where you're going to get to an Elite Eight, you're going to get to a Final Four, you're going to get to a national champion. But if it means 6 or 8 more fan bases get a chance to touch March Madness, I mean, we've seen what that does for universities, big and small. And much like we've seen in professional sports or even the college football playoff, when you expand that pool, it didn't change anything about the national championship in football, the fact that we were in it as part of an expanded field this year, but it gave our community and our fan base so much more benefit and core memories and a lifetime of memories to think back on. I think the same can happen in the basketball tournament if they choose to expand. So I don't know what the right number is. I haven't studied the formula and the logistics and the financials of that, but conceptually, I'm definitely a proponent of expanding March Madness and letting more kids and more programs and more fan bases touch March Madness.
I certainly don't have a number, but I would assume a small majority of teams in basketball would have either fired a coach going into his last year or they would have given him some type of contract extension. Why was it the best move for ASU to allow Bobby that one more year to prove himself?
I believe in Bobby Hurley, and we're still developing our relationship, and we had a lot coming at us last summer as I took the job. We had this incredible rise going on in football, and I didn't get a chance to spend as much time with Bobby late in the summer, early in the fall as I would have hoped to. And so we're still building our rapport. I'm still learning how he's operating and what he's wired by. I know he wants to compete, and I know he wants to be a Sun Devil. And he's got a decade of history at this institution, and it's been, there's been some highs and lows in there, but the body of work has been largely successful. And you kind of put that tenure up against some of the other eras of Sun Devil basketball. I just think there's more in the tank, and I'm excited to lock arms with Bobby and his coaching staff and figure out how do we do this together. And yeah, their backs against the wall. We don't know what lives beyond next April at this point, but we're also not reserving that that's going to happen at any one specific moment. It's going to happen when we get to a decision on where we go next. But for the time being, I want to build my relationship. I want to find out what role I can play and our department can play in having men's basketball be as successful as it can be. And we're going to continue to push those levers together. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that lends us.
And for his future, how does an athletic director handle direct communication? Is there a number? I know you won't tell us, but I mean, does he know if I win an NCAA tournament game, start contract negotiations? Does it get to 20 wins? Is it, we won't even talk about it, you and him, until the season's over? How do you evaluate in season what you're going to do?
I would say we have constant communication. All of our coaches will sit down this summer and we'll have kind of a formal recap. We'll kind of reserve that to try to do as much of that in July as we can once we've got clarity on last year for all of our sports. We've got next year's budget, and so we can get into those conversations in more specifics in that conversation. But I try to be as accessible and communicative with our head coaches as possible. We've got sport administrators, but I want to be very hands-on in as many sports as possible. And so, Bobby knows we need a deep run. He knows we need to have a big step forward, but I value his feedback on the things that we need in order to accomplish that. And we put a lot of money and a lot of resources into last year's roster. There wasn't a correlation, and I don't believe that there is a correlation in terms of money spent and outcome realized in anything that we're doing moving forward. I do think the most successful sports and the most successful programs will be the ones that assign value appropriately and uncover upside and athletic potential. And that might be more of a scouting and player development derivative, but spending money is never going to equate to wins. We've seen that play out in any number of competitive settings. I do think assigning value is very important and undercovering what is the right investment into a young person. How are you rewarding performance? How are you motivating behavior and outcomes in a way that leads to team success? And so we're hard at work about, we're gonna have a department in athletics called Athlete Services that's going to help us continue to manage the evolution of what's going on, contract management, the cap management, everything that comes around that. So we'll have that moving forward. But again, I think moving forward, assigning value, developing talent, and finding fits for your program become more important than just spending money because you have it.